Welcome to Three Thoughts On. Today we have Brett here on the call. Brett, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Rafael. Great meeting you.
Great to meet you. We have a common friend, Joe DeSena, who he keeps inviting me. I shouldn't say inviting me. He keeps introducing me to these wonderful people because I interviewed him several months ago and the interview went very well. And ever since, he's just been making introductions. And I'm so glad I got to meet you here virtually. We do live in the same city, so I hope that we can actually meet face to face here very soon. So before we get started, can you take a few minutes and tell the audience about yourself, who you are, and share a little bit of what you do?
Sure. And Joe, by the way, if he's nothing, he's a great connector. So he's done great work with us as well in supporting what we do. But my name is Brad Mason. I am a professionally. I work as a consultant in the fintech world. So I work with banks and credit unions around the country. And here in the community, back in 2015, I started what is the only intercity obstacle course racing and endurance event team in the country. And our name is the Give Team, as you mentioned. Our motto is no matter how little you have, you always have something to give. We're a program that's part of New Image Youth Center, which is an after school and summer program in the Paramore community here in Orlando. And the Paramore community was not long ago named one of the 25 most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. So it's a home of it's where there's high poverty, there's high crime, there's high dropout rates, and a place where many say hope goes to die. But the reality is, when you go to that community, you realize the strength and the resilience of the people who live there, the kindness, the love, and the true strength of many of those within that community. So that's who I am. That's I guess my passion is working with the young men and women of the Give Team, and I've been doing that for this will be I guess we're going on our ninth year now, which is hard to believe.
Well, that is great. So when I look at your profile, in some ways we have a similar story. You obviously have a background, as a professional. You said that you in your website it says you're a reformed lawyer turned energetic executive, right? And for me, I had a long career as an engineer, and now I'm doing this amongst other things in the health and wellness field. What happened? What drove you to take that step into giving to people who really need the help?
Yeah, I grew up. The one thing that we talk about as part of the team is that the one thing we all have in common is that we all have some kind of challenge that we're overcoming. And the reality is that although I had my challenges growing up, I did live a life of privilege. And what I learned rather early on, I guess you could say in college, was how much I got by giving back to the community. So I was involved in a lot of volunteer type situations, and that fell away when I went to law school as I got more focused on my career. And as I went away from one of the things that I used to define myself was as an athlete, because I was an athlete in high school and college. I played football in high school and rugby in college. And as I got farther away from those things, I realized that there was something missing. So it was around 2008, 2009 that I was working for another nonprofit as a volunteer here in Orlando when I met Shantae Barton Stubbs. And she's the founder and executive director of New Image Youth Center. And I got to know her. I went and spent some time at the center and just fell in love with what she was doing. And it's one of those things that when you go to a place like New Image and you just feel the energy that's there, it's addicting. And so I got pulled in. I was working as an advisor for a short period of time, and then became a member of the board of directors, where I continue to fill a role. with the center. So that's really how I kind of came into it. With the Give team, it was 2015, and just this kind of funny sequence of events. I was trying to rediscover my inner athlete, realizing that a decade or so of sitting in a chair and eating bad food and all that wasn't I wasn't an athlete, right? But that's really how I defined myself, and I realized that there was this conflict. So I was getting out trying to run and do things, and I had this chronic Achilles thing that kept coming up. And my son came home from Sea Cadets. He had a postcard, and it was a volunteer opportunity at an obstacle course race here in the following March, and this was in the fall. So I made a comment and I said, "Hey, that's really cool. That looks like that'd be a lot of fun." And he's like, and I had no intentions of running it. And he said, "No, no, 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 Dad. I don't want you doing that." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you can't even run regular without getting hurt." So the gauntlet was thrown down, trained for it, and I ran that race that March with Akeem, who is an alumnus of the New Image Youth Center and a staff member. He's also a personal trainer, and we had such an incredibly wonderful experience with the community in the obstacle course racing world that we thought, how can we take this and bring it back to the young men and women in New Image? And I already had the framework of a goal setting and leadership program put together, and it just came together. And from there we started getting together on Saturday mornings and doing workouts, and then we now do obstacle course races and endurance events all around the country.
That's fantastic. So, can you expand on that a little bit more? So, you do have the workouts every Saturday morning. So, that's a weekly type of thing. But then you also have these events that are on a different type of cadence, right? The events are what, once a month or every so often?
Yeah, we'll do. So we try to have every season we'll have a cornerstone event. It started out, Raphael. The cool part is, we didn't have a big budget or anything, and so we would look to have one event, and the whole idea was you train for that event. So it was an event at the end of the season. Well, as we started getting more attention through social media and otherwise, we got invited to more and more opportunities to participate in other events, and and we just find a way to figure out how to get to somebody would come up with, hey, can you make it to Miami this weekend? Well, we would just figure it out, and that's one of the common threads of our program is just no excuses. Just find a way and go make it happen. You don't get stronger by sitting still. So um, so we just figure out how to go do these things, and there have just been some incredible experiences that have been created around this whole thing. As you're growing up in any environment, right? You only do the things that you see in front of you. And if the things you see in front of you are the things that are happening on the corner of Paramore and Anderson, that's not really going to lead to a happy ending. So if we can take our young men and women out of the community and show them other things, introduce them to other people, conversely, bring other people from outside the community in to show them what's happening, but also introduce them to the young men and women that we work with. That's where you see magic happening, and it's truly this whole concept of engaging, and that's how you make change is by engaging.
That's fantastic. And I fully agree with you. I think that one of those things that we take for granted, especially in this society, in this world of hyperconnectivity, is the power of exposing yourself to other opportunities, to expose yourself to situations that are outside of your comfort zone, right? That's really truly where the growth starts unfolding for you. Now, let me ask you, I would like to understand a little bit better how you got started. A few years ago, I was doing some voluntary work with the Chopra Foundation, and we actually went to Paramore, and we went to a community center there, and it was on a Tuesday night. And we met with a bunch of the folks that are volunteering there to make things happen for the kids. And one of the main themes that kept coming up during the meeting is the challenge in getting the kids to come to the community center. The transportation, some of them don't have a way to get there. Some of them try to get there, but in between the home and the center, they get distracted and they never make it. Some of them live with grandparents, grandma, grandpa, and grandma and grandpa don't drive. And, in Orlando, we don't have, it's not like New York City, right? Where you have a solid transportation system that people can take advantage of. So, how did you go about solving that problem? It seems like you've solved that problem for your model. People, the kids come. What did you do? How did you get started?
Yeah, so there are two parts to that. One is the logistical element, which you're hitting on. The other is, I don't know what you were doing when you were in middle school and high school at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, but I wasn't getting up early to go out and get my ass kicked. And so I've been impressed with how we've been able to make that happen. One of the dynamics in the community is a lot of the families, several of them have been displaced because of what's happening in the Paramore community with development, and a lot of them are moving to the Pine Hills neighborhood, which is about 20 minutes out of the way. Um, what I tell anybody who wants to do what we do, if you want to come work with us, let me know and we'll make it happen. What that means for me is getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays to go to Pine Hills to pick up the guys who want to come and make sure that they make it there. One of the goals I have for this year, I want to get a van, a 15 passenger van that the center could also use, but that we could use on to be able to get more kids. There have been a couple situations where we've had to turn kids away just because of the logistics of how that would work. But so you've got the two things. And one is making sure that you've got the buy-in for the guys who want to participate. I tell them I'm not going to ever force you to do anything. You got to want to come do this. At the same time, if you tell me at 5 o'clock on Friday night that you're going to be showing up, your 5 p.m. voice is a lot different than your 5 a.m. voice. If you tell me at 5 p.m. you're going to be there and you don't answer your phone, I'll knock on the door. And that's not something anybody wants at 5 o'clock in the morning, because then your whole family wakes up, and that's just not a good way to wake everybody up. So we have one of the things that I wanted to do when I did this was recreate the experience I had playing varsity football in high school, which is that team environment. And that's the thing that draws a lot of the guys in, is that not just the new image, um, the community that's there, which is very strong. It's an extension of family, a new image. We're a subset of that has that, I think, and takes that to another level by going out and doing hard things together. When you do that you can't help but create bonds with one another, get to know each other a little more, and knowing that you're out there working for the same thing. So, so that's really what it is. I think it starts with that sense of team, that sense of being a part of something that's more than just you at the foundation, and then just us trying to find a way to make that work, whatever that is. If it means 3 trips out to try to get everybody that wants to show up, then that's what it is.
Well, that's fantastic. So, as you went through this, you said you're 9 years in the making already. What are some of the things that, as you look back, at some point when you take on anything like this, right? You run into some brick walls that maybe even for a split second you think you're not going to be able to overcome, but then you do, and then you get through that, right? If you think back on that, what are some of those things that at one point felt like they were insurmountable, but then you and your team made it through?
There are a couple times where we weren't sure how we were going to make it to certain events, and we would come up with a way to do that. And without fail, those events turned into something that we tell stories about. And so it's figuring things out that way. There are other times we've been challenged to do things that we maybe didn't know whether or not we could do, but we would end up doing them. One of the things that happened during COVID, you mentioned Joe DeSena. During COVID, June of 2020, everybody was shut down except Florida opened up for about 5 minutes. And Joe found a way to get a race on the calendar in June of that same month. So we signed up, and he came down and joined us for a workout on the Wednesday before the race. So at the end of the workout, he challenged our guys and said, "Hey, you guys should challenge yourselves and do 10,000 or do 4,000 burpees in 24 hours." And our guys collectively rolled their eyes. And he said, "I tell you what, I'll make it worth your while. Whoever does that, I will put $10,000 in a pot, and whoever completes 4,000 burpees in 24 hours will participate in that." So we guys were still a little skeptical, because that's a lot of burpees, and nobody loves burpees. So did the race on Saturday, and then on Sunday we got together for breakfast as we typically do. That's part of our standard thing. Is after a workout we usually grab breakfast. And I told the guys, I said, "Hey guys, if you do the math on this, 4,000 burpees in 24 hours is 3 burpees a minute. We could all do 3 burpees a minute." So we started training, and I had 6 guys who were consistently showing up to train. Joe reached out and said, "Hey, I see you guys are serious about this on social media. If you do this, I want you to come up to my farm in Vermont and do the burpees here." So Joe arranged for us to get up there. We rented, again, middle of COVID, we weren't going to fly. So we rented a 15-passenger van, drove all the way up to Vermont, which was a trip in itself for the kids to cross that many state lines, check states off the boxes of places that they haven't been, and then spent a week. He had 3 people come out, 4 people come out that remember they had to quarantine for a couple weeks ahead of time, and spent several days with our guys teaching them survival skills in the mountains of Vermont, things that you don't experience here on the big sandbar of Florida in Paramore. And so they had a blast doing that. And then that Wednesday, we all 9 o'clock in the morning did 4,000 burpees, including me. And that's one of the things. Whatever our guys do, I also do. So 3 of our guys finished their burpees pretty quickly and decided to keep going. And so 3 of them did 10,000 burpees in 24 hours. One of them learned that the world record was 10,111, so he did 10,112 as a junior in high school. So, just seeing these guys, what they've done is just, when you engage in your community, you might think that you're going to, strap an S on your chest and a cape in your back and go inspire whoever it is you're going to go work with. That's not how it works. If you go in with the right mindset, you walk out far more inspired than you could ever think, before going in. So, but yeah, that was one of the examples of a challenge that was put to us that we weren't sure if we were going to do it or not, and we were able to make it happen.